All right. Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm so excited that we can all be here with our cup of Joe for the love of coffee. You can't see mine, can we? There it is.
There it is.
It says, wake up and be awesome. Um, I'm really excited to introduce you to Dr. Charles Livingston today. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Christina Campbell. I'm an osteopathic trained physician. I'm board certified in emergency medicine, certified in functional medicine, and endocannabinoid medicine. And really, my passion and focus is finding and helping people to find the root cause of their dis-ease and helping them to utilize natural methods to allow the body to heal itself. And we do that in through my signature Transcend program. And those of you who know me know I am always looking for the best products for that ditch and switch conversation that I'm always having with you. So this is going to be a great conversation around that topic if you love a good cup of Joe. So let me, with no further ado, introduce Dr. Charles Livingston. Um, he started with his love of coffee started in his 30s. I started much earlier. But I think my first real cup of Joe that I fell in love with was when I went to medical school. So we can talk about that. But let me introduce Dr. Charles Livingston. He fell in love with coffee in his 30s, recognizing the need for healthier options in the market. To meet this demand and spread his passion for his favorite beverage, he created Life Boost Coffee in 2015. And I'm so glad he did. Offering regular dark and French roast coffees, decaffeinated options, flavored coffees, and the most recent product, which is Cognition Mushroom Coffee, very cool, offers the health benefits of immune mushrooms without that bitter taste you sometimes can get. All of the coffees produced by Life Boost Coffee are tested for over 450 toxins to ensure consumer safety. That is awesome. And such is so important. Life Boost Coffee has received acclaim, including being named the top fastest growing company in the Midwest by the Inc. Regionals in 2022. And actually, as of this morning on my Google search, is up now to number 17 out of the Inc. 5000 nationally. It just keeps rising every time I look. Dr. Livingston is proud to see his business and his visions succeed and credits his success to his faith, his awesome team, hard work, and perseverance. He's deeply passionate about his work and committed to improving the health of others on a very large scale. Dr. Livingston has previous experience as an entrepreneur. You could actually call him a serial entrepreneur, having created Bridge the Gap Marketing Green Life Weight Loss LLC in 2009. He was also the co-owner of Perfect Origins, which is a nutritional supplement company from 2012 to 2022. And prior to his business initiatives, Dr. Livingston pursued an education in health and biology, earning a Bachelor of Science in Biology from Franklin College in 2001 and a doctorate in chiropractic from the Palmer College of Chiropractic in 2004. His mission is to serve as a customer-focused business, prioritizing health, sustainable farming methods, and environmental protection. So for those of you who know me, you know that checks all of my boxes for a really great company and product to share. And you could say that Dr. Livingston and I found each other through our mutual love for coffee and for helping other people find health and vitality. So welcome, Dr. Livingston. It's so great. And I'm so grateful that you're able to be here today. How are
Well,
you?
thanks for having me, Doc. I'm doing great.
Absolutely. I'm so glad. Um, I'm just curious, just how did you find your way? I'm always curious because when you find a doctor who has found root cause medicine, there's always a really great story behind that. Usually a survival recovery or some kind of a story. So I'm just curious, how did you find your way into root cause medicine and chiropractics to begin with? And then how did that lead you into building a coffee company?
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic question. So ever since I was little, my last name is Livingston, and in Gen X, baby boomers, apparently there was some TV show, maybe I think it could have been Sherlock Holmes or something, where there was this line that was like, Dr. Livingston, I presume. So everybody said that to me since I was like 5 years old, over and over and over and over again, right? So I'm pretty sure it kind of got pre-programmed in my subconscious that I needed to be a doctor.
That's
Um,
great.
But other than that, no, I've always had a love for health. Ever since I was little, I hated taking drugs. It didn't make sense to me for what it was trying to do. And every time I would ask questions about health, I would always get the symptomatic disease response. And I was like, it's not what I'm looking for. And I would be asking as I got older, I would be asking more like, questions on how to optimize health versus how to avoid or how to, get rid of a symptom. Like I asked a doctor one time, I was just getting a checkup about creatine when it first came out. They had no idea. And I was like, I knew more than they did. I'm like, well, I need to know if I'm old enough I can take it yet. Like, because this is pre-internet, right? We didn't really have a lot of access to internet. And because I grew up in a small town of 1,000 people. Um, so I mean, it's just little things like that. And what happened was when I was in eighth grade, they made us like do research on what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I knew I wanted to go like something in the medical field. I was not happy with the answers or the care that I was getting. I was like, this is like not helping me get better, it's just helping me get over symptoms, right? It did not like it just didn't click. So I started researching chiropractic. I ended up shadowing one, and it was like, oh my gosh, these guys, they're addressing the root cause of what's going on. And it just blew me away. Like all the just people who come in and they would be like, the next time they would come in, they'd be like, yeah, it fixed it. I'm good. Or, they would be like, thank you so much. I've been dealing with this for like 20 years and you're the first person. So I just kept seeing this over and over again. I'm like, I need to do this. So that by eighth grade, I knew I was on a path to chiropractic.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it started. And then, I went to college, got my biology degree, minor pre-med, went into chiropractic school, graduated there, got into practice. They they taught us all science, hardly any business. They basically taught you if you build it, they will come. And since it's not like a medical where you're working in a hospital, right? So you get out and you instantly get a job. You have to basically start your own business. And they didn't really teach a lot of entrepreneurship then. So it was the school of hard knocks from the beginning. And so not only did I have to take care of patients, I had to learn to run a business and all this. And then they didn't really get into the ins and outs of insurance. And then after I started dealing with this and understanding like the games that were being played and how they did not want to pay you and how they try to dictate your care for the patient, I just had enough. And so that's when I pivoted. And I was like, I need to still be in the health field. I've had thousands of hours of nutrition and health training on top of, chiropractic. I was like, how can I make an impact on the world and bring value to the world besides just this? I love taking care of patients. I loved adjusting, but I needed something that wasn't going to internally eat me alive. Um,
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's
Mhm.
that's authentically kind of what happened and what drove me out of, um, that type of care. Now, you got more ways around it, I think, than you did then. Then when I was practicing, having more of a concierge cash type practice was like more fringe, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
much harder, and you had to, obviously be a much better businessman than I was at the time to be able to, because you effectively have to learn to sell patients on your care on why they don't use insurance and to come to you, right?
Right. Absolutely. I can so relate to your story. On so many levels. One of the reasons I left emergency medicine, well, I was there for 30 years, which is actually
Wow.
way beyond. Most don't make it past 10. Most burn out by 15.
Man,
Nearly 80%, I think, burn out by 15 years. Um, but the conventional way of looking at symptoms and trying, these are your symptoms, therefore this is your diagnosis, therefore here's your pill, and it doesn't work. Now there's plenty of space for conventional medicine, and particularly the emergency department, which is why I found myself there,
yeah.
because it was the most rewarding space that I could find in conventional medicine that served kind of what I needed to personally. In my health journey specifically. And but yeah, the insurance game, that's something. And coming out into, I actually launched my telehealth practice, and I was kind of on the down low doing consults on the side for many, many years. But I finally launched a telehealth practice during COVID, actually, because I realized first, there were already some people doing it, so I had some role models, which made it a little bit easier for me. But I just realized no, there we were in the middle of a pandemic, um, and I'm a two doctor family. We're both out of work. Like, how does that? Just try to compute that for a second.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So, but I wanted to, and all the doctor's offices were closed, and people were calling me that knew me were like, how can you help me? I need this help with this, and I need this help with that. And I thought, you know what? It's time. So, and I'd been planning and building towards it for a while. So I just did it. And it's been very rewarding, but it is very hard. It is a hard knocks if you don't have business background, which again, osteopathic training, same thing. We don't get business training at all. And I managed to make it to six figures all by my little lonesome, making it up as I go.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. And then I finally found a business coach who is helping me with strategy on the back end. So that's great. But I love a good startup. I sit on several boards helping with startup products. So product conversation and formulation is kind of one of the things I love too,
Yeah, me too. Me too.
which is
That's my
awesome.
favorite
So
things. I
awesome.
develop all the products for Life Boost.
I,
So it's my one of my passions is just creating. It's my way of, putting my knowledge and access to use and creating something that brings value to the world, right?
and it does. I can't even tell you how much I love the product. So I went to medical school in Maine. I moved from Florida to Maine. I actually think they were doing a little experiment on me to see what the Florida girl would do and all that snow. But in Maine, coffee's a way of, it's like a way of life because it keeps you warm, right? And people walk with their mugs everywhere. If you go to the local grocery store, there's a whole coffee stand in the front, and you just get this wave of like hazelnut and French
Yes.
vanilla and chocolate raspberry truffle. You get your free cup of Joe as you walk and you do your grocery shopping. And I fell in love with that. But then as I was trying to fix my own health and my own health journey, I had a lot of health gurus and docs that I was working with for me, helping me tell me, you have to give up your coffee. You have to give up your coffee. So can you speak to that? Why are so many health gurus talking about giving up coffee? What is it in the general scheme of things? And obviously it's different here. That's what you've done to fix. But what is it that other coffee companies are doing or the industry is doing that's really making people sick and people don't realize it?
Yeah, great question. So there's a couple things there, and I'll start by just saying this. Coffee is the third most drink beverage in the world.
Yeah.
You know what one and two are?
Tea has got to be in there somewhere in water.
Number two, water's number
Oh,
one.
Coke, maybe coffee, pop, maybe. I
So
don't know.
water's number one, tea is
Okay.
number two, coffee's number three.
Okay.
Which also means it's cash crop, right?
Yeah.
So what do we do with our cash crops in order to create quantity over quality, right?
Hmm.
You highly spray it with pesticides. So it's not that you know as well as I do that toxins bioaccumulate in your body. So it's not like having 10 cups of regular coffee is bad for you. It's just if you're a coffee drinker, think about this. If you're a coffee drinker, average coffee drinker drinks about 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day times 365 days. You're a coffee drinker, you're not missing a day because your day is totally off and it's ruined if you miss your coffee. Times 365 days times 20 plus years, right? So think about all the toxins because when you create, a liquid out of all those beans, you're basically just concentrating all those into a cup. So that over and over and over and over and over and over again is what's going to build up. And then all of a sudden you get into your 40s and you're like, why am I having all these health problems? Why does my stomach hurt? What is going on? And it's just you're hitting that threshold of toxic load where your body's like is not happy anymore. Your liver's clogged from, other things as well, so it's just one thing that if you do it a lot, can indirectly cause some things going on, right?
Right.
On top of that, where it's grown, majority of coffee is imported. The pesticide regulations outside the U.S. not that great. It is tested, but what's funny is that obviously Europe, they are much stricter with their food quality and even their coffee quality. So a lot of things that get rejected from Europe with coffee get sent over to us.
Mm.
If you knew that or not. Yeah. So like that's one thing. And then you've got the mycotoxins, the molds and stuff. If it's not stored or if it's not processed properly, they can get on the beans. So that's another aspect. Why doctors were saying that? I mean, before it wasn't until I don't know what 2013, 14, 15, somewhere around there when people started saying coffee would actually had health benefits based on the research, right? Before that, it was like coffee was bad for you, but everybody wanted to drink it because it gave you energy because of the caffeine. And I think part of the doctors are still vibing with the old ways, right? Which happens a lot. And I think part of it is that, because of the chronic stress out there and with adrenal fatigue and all these things, if you're drinking a lot of caffeine, it can definitely push you towards burnout with your adrenals. So I think that's also a reason as well. Plus, like, there are foods that are notoriously have mycotoxin or molds on them, right? Peanuts is one, coffee is another. So there's different things that can affect that. So when you're looking at like more your functional and natural holistic practitioners, they're kind of looking at that aspect as well.
Yeah.
But the thing is like it's like if you look at our society, people have this thing with health. It's either black or white. It's either good for you or it's bad for you, right? But what they don't understand is that health is very gray. It's a spectrum. So if you're eating, you know, spinach has got a lot of nutrients in it. Also got a lot of oxalates in it. So
Hmm.
you could be thinking that you're doing something healthy for you, but in effect, with if you're eating a bunch of spinach and you're getting, all the nutrients that spinach has, you're also getting the pesticides if it's not organic, and you're also eating the oxalates, which is a protective mechanism in the plant to keep from getting eaten. And
Right.
so that also accumulates in your body, right? So it's one of those things where, yes, it could be good for you, but it could also be bad for you. So then it comes down to your ability to just be educated enough to be like, okay, well, which is it for me? Is it benefited me? Am I eating other things with more oxalates in it that's just increasing my load of these plant toxins versus just give me the nutrients and the antioxidants that I'm wanting out of it, right?
Right. Right.
So it's and it's hard because like the general public, I take for granted that like the general public doesn't know a lot of this because I'm like in it every single day. Like it's like that doctor's trap or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, sorry, I think I
Yeah.
just got off the
No, you didn't. No, that's exactly right. And I actually felt it's funny because and early in my journey, I felt much better when I gave up coffee. And I remember talking to my mother and her saying, "Why in the world would you do that?" And I thought, because she's like, because we both love coffee.
yeah.
And I was doing it because I was told it and I didn't know enough and I was still learning back then what goes into our products. And we speak about in my programs, my Transcend program, we talk a lot about ditch and switch. I mentioned that earlier and finding what is healthy. And very often the things that are ancient things that have been around forever, things like chocolate, things like coffee, things like tea, things that we eat, crops that we use, even from our meats, right? And our sources of fish. All those things sometimes will have toxic load if you're getting them from the wrong place in the industry. So you bring up the industry and then you're exactly right. And I don't know and I talk about this a lot. Many people don't realize the average woman puts on or uses over 300 toxins just in getting up out of bed and getting ready to leave the house for work.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yes, in personal care products, your
Yeah.
shampoo, your soap, your deodorant, like, and all these things are combined into a toxic load, as you mentioned, that just overwhelms. So if you add all those numbers that you talked about with just coffee alone to 350 toxins that you're putting on before you leave the house, and then also the environmental toxins that you can't control. So, and you can't focus on everything because then you will, in fact, blow out your adrenals just
Yeah,
stressing out over the things that you can't control. But the things you can control, those are the things that we as doctors, we as healthcare providers or holistic practitioners or people who get it need to be sharing more. Where can you get the product that's going to actually be healthy for you and get rid of the toxic load or try and reduce that? So inside of your home, in your pantry, in your personal care products, in the clothes that you wear, in the lighting and the electricity that you have in your house. I mean, all these things add up to load that the cells have to deal with. And I think you spoke to that perfectly in the coffee conversation. And I was so I can't even tell you, like cartwheels in the backyard, thrilled to be able to add coffee back to my life because I genuinely, truly love it. Like I love it. It's like a meditation for me.
it is.
It's just,
It's a ritual, right? A
it
ritual.
is.
And what is a ritual? A ritual is self-love, right?
It
It's
is.
something that you do for yourself to make yourself better for the day, for you and for others, right?
Yes,
So it
exactly.
in coffee, like I like every morning, I always look forward to because I don't drink my coffee till 10 o'clock. Give my
Mhm.
body and my cortisol levels time to kind of just calm down and
Yeah.
be all right. And so I like, but I always look forward to that 10 o'clock when I can make my coffee.
Yes. Yes. Me too. Me too. So, okay. So I saw you have a cup. So in my cup, I have the espresso, but so I do a lot of genetic testing. I'm very caffeine sensitive.
Yes.
And so in my genetic testing, I'm very caffeine sensitive. So I mix it with, right now, I have it with the creme brulee, the decaf,
Okay.
and with heavy cream and some immune mushrooms, some collagen. And I'm
Oh,
actually falling in love with the longevity, the creamer that you've developed. I love it. And it's
good.
delicious. So many of the substitute creamers don't actually taste great. You kind of just make yourself get used to it. This is not that. And it's really good. And I love to mix it with just a little bit of heavy cream. So good and so many health benefits, and from cognition to energy to focus, so many benefits and so delicious. So I have to say thank you, like before I forget to do it, thank you very much for
That means you are.
legitimately following your passion. And I'm involved with several startups, so I know how hard it can be to get something like this off the ground. And I'm just like, wow, so excited and thrilled that that you have really been able to do this and bring this to the world is amazing to me. And I'm thrilled to be a part of it in any way that I can share it with other people as well and drink it every day. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I will put in my pitch for decaf espresso beans though. Just they're not there yet, but just saying.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll let my team know and see what we can do to source that. That's a
So
whole
I want
other end.
well, I know it's a whole nother conversation. Actually, it's a conversation I'd like to talk about. So
Yeah.
people don't understand in the processing of the bean. It's the same with a lot of other things in our food industry. The way that it's grown, the soil it's grown and how it's grown, what chemicals are put on it, how is it processed, when is it picked, where is it processed, is it, how is it sourced, is it thrown together in a bunch of batches, is it single source? Like all of these things really apply to lots of different industries, from essential oils to herbs to a lot of the vegetables and fruits on your table. So same with coffee. How is the decaffeination process, taking a bean that has caffeine and creating decaffeinated coffee? Um, I know that it creates more toxic load in the standard in the way that a lot of companies are doing it, but I also know that there's a really great way to do it, and that's how you're doing it here. Can you
Yeah.
speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So most decaffeinated coffees use harsh chemicals to decaffeinate them. And also I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I want to say it's like 96% accurate on getting all the caffeine out. But the harsh chemicals and stuff, I mean, you're washing your beans in harsh chemicals to pull out caffeine. So that means that guess what? You're going to be at some point ingesting these, right?
Right.
So not what I wanted. So what we did is there's a method out there that is called the Swiss water process, and that's what we use. And it's basically, in a nutshell, once again, like I'm giving you high level picture. I'm pretty sure it's just washed over and over and over and over and over again with water to get the caffeine out, and it has a 99% reduction in the caffeine. So I mean, nothing, as you know, in life, nothing is ever 100%.
Hmm.
Um, so, but it's as close to that as possible. Uh, so yeah, that's what we do. Our beans are single origin. We don't blend. My big thing is like trying to keep cross contamination because when most coffees out there, you'll see, and you'll see it on the bags. It'll say blend on it, right? And what that means is they'll take two different beans from different regions or areas of the world and mix them together. A lot of times it's a way to cut cost because you can have like good expensive beans and then blend them with more inferior beans to help the coffee company's margin, right? Um, so, but like that brings in cross contamination with mycotoxins and molds, and along with like obviously different places use different pesticides, it's all kinds of stuff like that go down. So I'm trying to like keep it as clean as possible. And from my point of view and perspective, I think that single origin is a better way to go.
Yes.
So our decaf is single origin and we use a Swiss water process. So that way we're not using harsh chemicals to clean. And it's also organic.
That's awesome. So I will tell you that I love the decaf coffees. Oftentimes in conventional, more conventional brands that I've used, I don't, I always, I feel, so let me say, I don't get that caffeine rush that you get with the regular bean, but I would always feel worse. And I could, for the longest time, not figure it out because to me, before I learned a lot of these things and before I had, got certified in more of a holistic practice, I didn't know. And I was like, why do I feel like so bad? It should be better for me if it's decaffeinated, knowing how sensitive I am to caffeine. So that explains that. And I'm sure there are a lot of people on this, call who are watching this who are going to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So how we process it really makes a big deal or a big difference. But most people don't realize that there are amazing benefits to the coffee bean and to many, many natural products out there. There are lots of amazing benefits and what we call chemical constituents. I'm big into essential oils, so that's my
Mhm.
verbiage.
Yeah.
But the chemical constituents that come in that natural product are often balanced with one another and have lots of great benefits for our bodies. Things like polyphenols, right? And there's some other things. Can you
Organic
speak
acid. Yeah.
yeah, can you speak to that and how that I get to have a lot of patients who have mold biotoxin, Lyme, and SIRS. For those who don't know what that means, SIRS is chronic inflammatory response syndrome.
Hmm.
And they have a lot of gut health issues alongside
That
those things.
is that the new term for RSD?
What is RSD?
Reflex sympathetic dystrophy.
Sympathetic? No, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
SIRS is that generalized body inflammation that comes with all that biotoxin illness when your
Ah,
body's
okay.
just not able to cope. You're just like globally inflamed. There's a doctor named Dr. Schumacher who's put some pretty cool protocols out there. And then, of course, Dr. Bredesen's work around dementia in that same mold conversation.
Yeah.
And reducing those things, but that inflammatory response can actually be found if you there's actually an eye test. It's called the visual contrast sensitivity test. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, so this is really cool. So on your computer, you can do this test. It takes maybe 20 minutes, maybe a half hour the first time you do it because you have to measure the distance of your eyes to the computer screen. And it takes you through some different visuals, kind of like you might do at an eye doctor's office to test your visual contrast sensitivity or your ability to see the contrast, the ability to see the clarity. And the more inflamed your entire body is, your eyes or the eyes themselves, the eyeballs, the globe, that small ecosystem reflects what's happening in the entire body. So when you're inflamed everywhere else, you're inflamed in your eyes and it affects your vision. And they've figured out how, through a lot of research, how to test that and figure out if you have what they call chronic inflammatory response syndrome, but specifically, could it be from Lyme? Could it be from mold? Could it be from those things combined? Could it be from, and because there's different things that those different sections of conversation create in your eye. It's so cool. And it costs like $10. So I use this in
Wow.
my office all the
Okay.
time because it's a very inexpensive way to follow these very expensive illnesses
I love it.
over time. Cool, right?
Yeah, super
Um,
cool.
yeah. So in the conversation around coffee, I actually noticed when I stopped drinking coffee that my vision got better. And I didn't put it together. It took me a while. I didn't put it together right away, but I stopped having to put my glasses on to watch something or see the signs far away or whatever. But whenever I'm overstressed, not slept enough, or something is going on where I know I'm more inflamed, my eyesight changes. So it all kind of comes together. But when I started drinking cleaner coffee, my eyesight has actually consistently gotten better. It's just one of those things that I've noticed. Um, Also gut health. So
Yeah.
for me, my whole path to medicine started with a diagnosis of Crohn's disease when I was 12 and a near death
Oh,
experience at 14. So that was where I had a lot of exposure to conventional medicine early on that wasn't awesome. Some that was and some that wasn't. And I wanted to be for other people that doctor that actually saved my life and my entire intestinal lining. So they wanted to remove it all when I was 14. And I was actually told I wouldn't make it to my 15th birthday if I didn't let them do a complete colectomy. And that was 2 weeks away from the conversation. And I adamantly refused because
yeah.
in my deep, in my deep knowing, I just knew it was setting me up for a life of pain and suffering and disability. And I didn't want that. And I refused it. And I had one doctor who sat at the edge of my bed and said, okay, you're refusing this. Your parents are backing you up on it. What are we going to do though? We got to do something because you're dying, right? we, we have to do something. And I told him, I said, look, I will do anything you tell me to do, doc, but I won't do that. Not going to do that because it doesn't make any sense. Come up with something
Like a
else.
meatloaf song,
Yes,
doesn't it?
exactly. Yes, exactly right. That's so funny. Okay, now I'm gonna have to figure out how to put my story to that song. I know exactly which one you're talking about. That's funny. You'll be the first one I send it to when I do it. But it was a Friday afternoon. He said, "Can I talk to my daughters?" Because I had a lot of, sort of risque things to say. I was a very good Catholic girl, and I was like, I haven't done any of these things. I don't want a poop bag the first time I do these things, that I have any intimacy in my life. I want to be able to have kids. I want to be able to, I want to lead a great life. And this is not going to allow me to do that. And so he was a piano playing Catholic doctor who had multiple daughters at home. So he said, can I talk
Okay.
to my daughters so I can better understand how you're feeling? And then can I talk to people? I was like, you talk to anyone you want. I don't care what you tell me. I will do anything else. I promise you. So he came back on a Monday morning and said, okay, so you're not going to eat or drink anything for 6 months to maybe a year. We're going to put you on, we're going to put a Hickman catheter in, which was a central line into the subclavian, into the central system right around my heart. And we're going to feed you that way. And I was allergic to the only medicine on the market at that time. So high dose steroids, we're going to desensitize you to the medication. So it was out of the box thinking, still conventional medicine, but out of the box thinking. He saved my entire intestinal lining. I still have it. And I'm 50, almost 55 now. I mean, that's 40
Pretty good
years
doctor.
later.
I mean, he did exactly what a doctor is supposed to do, right? Think outside the box and not just follow, a very strict protocol that's most likely outdated,
Exactly right.
right?
And he saved, yes, Dr. Serta, God rest his soul. He saved my life. He saved my intestine. And I decided that day I wanted to be that doctor for my patients. I didn't want to be the guy who was threatening people. I wanted to be the guy who actually thought outside the box with reasonable, methods that would actually work. And found myself working in the emergency department after doing both ER and internal medicine residencies. And just the clinic, nobody ever got better. And I was spinning my wheels. I loved my patients, but I wasn't doing anything great for them. So I spent most of my early career in the emergency department. And one day I just started learning things that dropped into my lap for my own health benefit. And the more I learned, the more I realized I was now, it was time for me to move to another place where I could really help more and kind of go back to those internal medicine roots. And so I went to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So from the death and dying emergency medicine, save your life in a minute, hopefully, or help you, right, to the end place to trying to prevent people from getting to the ER. So that's kind of a little bit more about my story. Um, and so man, it was not easy for me. I was in a great place in my career. It would have been very easy to stay there because you get so good at something, you just walk in, you do it all
Yeah.
day and you're good. But sometimes it's not necessarily the right thing to do. And for me, it was time to move on and start having some of these deeper conversations about things that people can do that are dirt cheap, right?
Yeah.
Ditch and switch. We talk about that. I have a whole program around that to get rid of that 300 some odd chemicals that you put on your body in the morning, to improve the water in your home, to your coffee that you drink. And that's how I got to this company. That's how I found you was and there are a couple companies now out there that are trying to do the same thing, but
Yeah.
I will be honest and say that and I've tried them all probably. But what I love about Life Boost and about this company is the passion around not only the end customer and the processing and the way it's done and the healthy aspect and the testing, because I'm huge on testing. So, you know, testing that to know that the end product is in fact safe and consumable and not only that healthy for you, but then also the environmental aspects that you brought to the table, because so many products that are great for convenience are destroying our planet, our food sources, our oceans, our so many things. And I don't want to sound too much like a tree hugger, but but it's true. And we as this generation is coming up, and I have children, I want them to have healthy lives, and I want them to have a planet that will still be here, right, for their children and their children's children. And so one of the things that I love about what you've done too is the conversation around the K cup. A lot of companies have K cups for convenience. I will tell you, I travel with a French press, like a travel size French press. And that's how I've gotten around it. And I bring my own water pitcher. So I have my water filtered and structured, and then I put it and I heat it up in the hotel room. However, I do that. And I pour it in my French press with my beans, and I bring a grinder because I am truly a coffee lover. So that's how I've been doing it. But you have a new product, or relatively new, that's great for travel. So
Yeah.
can you
A go
speak a little
bag.
bit to how you developed that and what your thinking was on that conversation?
Yeah. So yeah, I know that the same thing. We get a lot of people asking in about this, about how can I, have great coffee on the go. I don't trust some of the shops or whatever that are around, and I don't want to drink the coffee that's in the hotels. So, I when I was researching, I ran across this method where it's essentially, I don't know why somebody didn't think of this sooner because it's fairly new. They just put coffee in a tea bag, and you just need hot water, and just pour it over, and you steep the coffee like as long as you would a French press, right? 4 to 7 minutes depending on how strong you want it. And you can, like, I'll leave the bag in there and just drink it with the bag. Um, but yeah, that's like, I think, the best method. We do have K cups, and we're constantly trying to evolve. I'm not a huge fan of that, but again, we have so many people requesting it. So we started with compostable, but there were some issues with that, so we switched to more recyclable. But we're still trying to like innovate, and that's the one thing is like I never want to stop innovating in this business. So because health is always ever changing, you know better, you do better, right? So
Right.
there's always new, research coming out and new technologies. And so it's my job as a CEO to be able to stay on top of that and be like, okay, what's the new health stuff coming out? How can we help to integrate this into Life Boost to make our product and our experience even better for our customers? So that's kind of, my methodology on how I think about this. So I'm always like trying to find new ways. So And this was an example of that. The go bags. It's just a way for people who didn't want to deal with the plastic of the Keurig, or the machine, because the problem with, not only are you heating plastic, but the other problem with Keurig machines is that a lot of people won't clean the plastic that's inside the tubes. You can get a lot of mold buildup there. And
Yep.
so you can have healthy coffee, but if you don't clean your machine, your water's literally running through a moldy tube and going right into your coffee. So you're defeating the purpose of drinking healthy coffee.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, so we're constantly trying to innovate. Now we have like, I partnered with a friend of mine who sells these like little tablets that help to clean out those type of coffee makers too. So we have
Oh,
those.
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that was on board yet.
Yeah, yeah. That's the balance between, how do we market, because it's hard because we have a lot of products, because we're
Mhm.
trying to have a good base, so customers have a selection of things, right? Um, and so so it's hard to balance, the marketing and the innovations that we're having. But we're like, even the little thing, just like that, like it's a small thing, but it can make a big difference to somebody who's like not paying attention to that at all.
Right,
So.
right. One of the things I have seen, and you bring up so many good points with the patients that I have that have this chronic inflammatory response, and they have, significant mold biotoxin illness, is traveling is really hard for them. They're basically homebound because they've developed their home for what they need for their lifestyle. But, no commercial place, no Airbnb, no hotel is doing those things, right down to the coffee pot, as you pointed out. And so they often will, if they attempt to go on a trip, will either have to bring 17 suitcases to bring, like I do, all the things, right? My husband laughs because my suitcase just gets bigger and bigger. Um, and I'm like, yeah, well, but I'll have all the things I want and need, and I'll be happy, and therefore so will you. And that's always how that ends. But same with my patients. So I'm always trying to find that, where are the solutions that can help them have a life again? Because I mean, we're here. When we live our lives, it shouldn't be a miserable existence just trying to make it,
Yeah.
and just trying to cope with the symptoms we have, or cope with, the things. We should actually feel amazing. We should be energetic. We should be able to enjoy things. We should be able to make memories. Some people can't even make their memories stick. And mold is a big piece of that puzzle, and it's a very big problem globally, really.
Oh, for sure.
Um, so such a great offer to have these things. And then how do we clean? So cleaning products are just one more personal care product that we're always talking about, ditch and switch. I use vinegar in my home coffee pot to help with the scale, and then I have a essential oil blend, kind of like cleaner, that's plant-based, that I use, that's
Nice.
completely clean, and that works, but it's not ideal because you got to get this, you have to flush that through enough before you can make your next cup. So time consuming, but it certainly is clean and a way to go. So I love that you now are developing tablets. That's awesome to know. And will be something I'll share with my patients, because that's all those things, all the little things, everything that you can do that stacks up, right? I
Yeah,
call it
it's
I call it stacking your wins.
yeah, for sure. And then the opposite of that is like all these toxins, it's death by a thousand cuts, right? They just you just don't know until you hit that threshold, and all of a sudden you're like, what is happening to me? Why don't I feel good? Why am I tired all the time? Why does my back hurt? Why does, and it's a lot of times it's not just one thing, it's just the culmination and the accumulation of multiple things. And so for me, that's what, with coffee, I'm like, I'm drinking a lot of this. I'm doing it daily. I know once I start, I'm going to be doing it for years. So I need to find the cleanest source, because that's one toxin, area of toxins that I can eliminate. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the way I look at it, is like, if I can eliminate that, that's one step towards better health. What else can I eliminate, right? The
Exactly.
stuff that you're cooking with, the foods that you eat, stay away from high fructose corn syrup. That's another one. Just different seed oils, stay away from those. So different things
Yes.
like that. It's just like, once I always say this, better, you do better. So I'm like constantly trying to educate myself, not just for my own health, but to, you know, share that with my customers too.
So as we're kind of coming to a close, and I just want to say I'm so grateful that you've been here, that we could have this conversation and share some of this information with more people. Um, do you have any like last minute thoughts or tips or things that you've learned along your journey that you feel people should know?
I mean, just to kind of echo what you were saying, health is something that you yourself should be in charge of. You are the CEO of your health. So, what is a CEO? What is a CEO? A CEO is basically the decision maker of an organization. You are the decision maker of your organization. So, the best CEOs surround themselves not just with one, you know, wise person in one area. You surround yourself with a bunch of them. So for me, the way I approach health is like I have, different doctors that I'll reach out to get second opinions, just so you don't get pigeonholed. Like, a lot of times people will be like, you go to an allopathic doctor and they're like, this is your only solution. As soon as somebody says this is your only solution, I instantly have a red flag in my head that says it's definitely not my only solution. So I'm definitely getting a second opinion, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so that's just kind of how I approach, life in general is like, have like multiple opinions. You can trust, but you need to verify. There's a
Yes,
book called The Fifth Agreement. You ever read The Four Agreements
I have not.
by Don Miguel Ruiz? It's basically like four agreements you have with yourself to live your life to be purposeful and to be the best person you could possibly be. And for instance, one of those is, protect your name. So protect your reputation. And so if whatever you do in life, make sure that you come across as think about your choice and decisions so you protect your name and your reputation so people will know, like, and trust you, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then the other one, the fifth agreement is trust but be skeptical, especially in today's world. There's so much there's a lot of stuff going down. So it's important now more than ever just to have, you know, uh, a team of people you can lean on to help you make decisions. Um,
Yeah.
so that's just kind of one thing I just want to echo off of what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. In this world of technology too, and there's so much stuff, let's call it, flying around, and you don't know what to believe, what's real, what's not real. And I actually always encourage my patients to get on PubMed. PubMed is a great place for
Yeah.
people to look for themselves and learn what the research really is. And doctors like Dr. Livingston and I are always looking into the new literature. I spend a significant amount of my time in these research papers, every week, every month. And I'm always finding things. And of course, there's conflicting information as well there. And that just has to do with how are the research studies put together. But really important to, as you said, surround yourself with multiple people who are living the life that you want to live, right? If you find the person who's healthy, who's teaching it, who's doing how you want to be, or is living the lifestyle that you want to live, if you can emulate them, use them as a role model, that's really helpful. And a lot of this is why I love to do these podcasts, these webinars, these conversations, and put them out there, because it adds to that conversation and allows one more person to, hopefully, if we can grab one person and somebody today says, you know what, I didn't know there was mold in my coffee. I didn't know that my personal care products were a problem. Let me look into that, right? And that helps them to lead a healthier life. Then we've done a really great thing here today. And when we do this on such a big scale, when you create a company that can do this on such a big scale, that to me is just what an incredible value add to the world. And so I just want to say thank you. And I'm grateful, I'm appreciative, and I'm so happy that I found you, so happy that I found this company, this product. Um, and I hope we've helped somebody today.
Yeah, no, this is what keeps me going is just hearing things like that because man, it's there's so much stuff out there. It's like, it's hard to go it alone. So like I hope that I'm able to, offer some value to others when it comes to this stuff because I've spent definitely my entire adult life, but even like half of my teenage life, like just studying health. I just got fascinated by it at an early age. Oh yeah, after this podcast, reach out to Maggie. We have I created an ebook for that's basically like it goes through all the major like the five major toxins in like the five major toxins of the air, five major toxins in skincare, five major toxins in like food and so it's an ebook that has like the five major toxins you need to look out for and what are your alternatives to help mitigate that. So, and it's free. So you should definitely put that link in your podcast for people to just have and download.
Absolutely, I will. I will make sure that it's out here with this video when we put it out. Absolutely. Thank you for that. I
Hey, yeah,
appreciate that.
welcome. Yeah, it's
Appreciate that.
definitely got some great information in it. It'll be helpful for sure because we do
That's
give solutions. It's not just telling you the problem. We're actually giving you solutions of where to go to buy stuff.
right. That's exactly what we need. We all need solutions to the problems.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Okay, I am going to stop recording.